Death by banishment, sending an evildoer into the wilderness with only a flint dagger. Wow, harsh, based on what I've seen of the wilderness, anyway. Hello and welcome back to Boring Dad Gaming, where today we're going to be playing some more Roadwarden. So let's dive in. Now, if you remember last time, we'd made our way to the Enchantress in the east of the peninsula. We'd purchased a couple of spirit rocks, which I think are going to help us activate the altar in the southwest that we've tried sacrificing ourselves to numerous times without success. But I think it's all adding towards kind of like a points goal of what you need to do to activate it. I think all the blood that I've put on it so far will contribute towards the total. I think we're probably about halfway there, and I'm hoping these 2 spirit stones I've got might get us the rest of the way. So without further ado, we're going to go and travel to the Beholder. It's going to take about half our time until dusk. We do have the Pelt to the north there as well. So it kind of depends where we want to end up, really. We could also then go on to Howler's Dell. But either way, we're going to the Beholder now. You reach the crossroads. The tree branches and roots are moving slowly in a way that can't be justified solely by the wind. The smell of the water hasn't changed a bit, but the cold breeze brings refreshing air from the meadows. Approach the altar. I'm going to make an offering, and it's Spirit Rock. As soon as you lay it on the stone slab, the pebble hisses for less than a single breath, then shatters into dozens of tiny rocks, not much larger than grains of sand. The great tree greets your offering with the sound of moving, stretching branches, and we're going to do the same thing again. The cream-coloured limestone is cold and smooth. The tree branches are now much longer, and they keep swaying gently. More and more roots break through the water surface, so we're getting close. I'm prepared to offer half my blood to maybe finish this off. Because I quite like to keep one of those spirit stones. They were quite expensive. Let's offer my blood. And we're going to make a deep cut. That's about 50% of our health. Your blood spills on the altar and sinks into it before it gets to the edges. The sound of moving, stretching branches occurs almost immediately. I approach the weird fruit that has suddenly appeared. So we've done it. We have got the fruit from the tree. It appeared in just a couple of moments, transforming from a button-sized sphere into a large fruit. While its shape and size resemble an apple, it's also pale, entwining the whites and greys of bone. It's divided into a number of slices, like an expensive toy made of marble. The tree is now larger, taller, but becomes silent once motionless, sated in its hunger. Your farewell gift is waiting for you. I think we know there's things in the water. I think we may have had a saurian snap at us before. I think I remember. It was very early on in our adventure. So I'm going to spend an hour or so making the tools that allow me to pick the fruit from where I am. You look for 2 long branches in the required shapes. First, you make a curved hook, then a net-like piece of cloth spread between 2 sub-branches. The plan is simple: to pull the fruit with the former, then catch it with the latter. You practice it on an imaginary branch a couple of times until you feel ready. All it takes is a single pull. It's hard like bone, smooth like polished granite, and just as cold. You look at the tree, but nothing else grabs your attention. I put the tools away and hide the fruit in a sack. You don't see any creatures nor humans. Right, I'm going to pop into my journal and we're going to look at the quest Healing the Plague, and we'll see what we've got to. Okay, so yes, the old druid said that we should return to him once we had the seed. So yeah, that's what we're going to do now. We've got 3.5 hours before dusk to travel to the old man. It's only 15 minutes, so let's do that right now. A flock of colourful birds is circling in the sky. The old man is sitting on a wooden stool between the garden beds, weeding. The torn plants are resting in a small basket. What do you need, traveller? Let's just think about this. Let's first of all ask about the tribe of the Green Mountain. He scowls at you, then looks down the path. There's no reason for anyone to bother them, or to leave the safe paths. Eudocia, the enchantress, has asked me to place these bronze rods in high spots across the peninsula. I should be done in about half an hour. Let's do that. He takes and observes the rod for a moment, then closes his eyes and bites it gently. When he returns it, he seems unconvinced. I sense a spirit in it, but I'm neither one who can tell who's behind it. How can I be sure? You explain what you know about the nature of the rods, but he changes the topic to Eudocia herself. Another minute passes by before he accepts that you indeed know her. Fine, I'll ask for her story next time I see her. Go, but away from the spring. Don't break your neck. Even a child could get to the higher parts of such a jagged cliff, though you have no reason to expect all the loose rocks to be cleared. I take off my armour and put away my weapons and bags. The bronze rod is attached to your back by a cord. As you place your feet and hands on the rocks, you realise that you have to move slowly, maintaining your balance, pushing away smaller and larger pebbles, making sure the wall doesn't collapse under your feet. The rocks are coarse, supporting your grasp, and you rarely find a sharp spot. The climb resembles a nice summer walk, though your muscles are not prepared for such movements. You find the perfect spot, a small crack between two massive rocks. You use the rod to broaden it just a bit, then push it halfway in and fill the gaps with a rag. Doing it with one hand makes you dizzy, but not for long. I take a short break to catch a second breath. Climbing down is easier, though you struggle to recall exactly where you had previously placed your limbs. The warm sun eases your tension. After a few minutes, you land on the soft grass and dust off your hands. Once again, you prepare your equipment. The druid gives the shining rod a pouty look. Okay, I have the fruit that you told me about. He straightens up and takes the fruit gently, then carries it to the cave. When he returns, he bows his head to you. I'm astonished, traveller. I am. It must have taken a lot, but we're almost done with it. Return to me once you're ready to take me to Old Pagos and back, but no later than the early afternoon. I may help us push away the wild animals, but I'll be too weak to protect us from the creatures of the night. We'll need maybe 6 hours. Okay, well it's too late now. So let's travel. There's no point going too far, because we're just going to have to come back anyway. What I might do is head to the ruins. I might set our fish trap, then go and rest at Pell to the North. Maybe get our clothes repaired if we can afford to. Right. See the fish trap. I expect the one is dead. Yeah, it's dead. It's starved to death. It's been a while since I set it, so let's set the fish trap again. Don't need to wash in the river. We're going to travel on to Pell to the North. It's possible the armour is closed by now. Ooh, the yard is stained with coughed out blood. The trail leads into the building. The hunters are tense with weapons at hand, looking at you as if you're bringing them answers. You're approached by Dalit. You heard? The lieutenant from Hag Hills fled from her camp. She would be dead without our potions. Ooh, what happened? A troll. There's a hint of shame in her voice. She says she stopped it, but not before it tore the other soldier to pieces. Better speak with her. Oh dear. The innkeep greets you with a nod, then his eyes lead you to the bench in the corner. Tulia is sitting with her head resting against the wall, heavily breathing, with clean bandages on her neck, arm and leg. Next to her are 3 small bottles, all of them open, but your nose catches no scent of ale. Her gambeson's on the floor, now more of a rag than an armour. As you sit down next to her on a stool, she opens one eye and then another. Her grunt is hesitant. Tell me about the attack. I forget her accent. There isn't much to say. It came in the early hours. We threw and shot at it anything we could. After it broke through the gate, I had one last arrow left. My subordinate, her voice is bitter, gave me time to aim, and now he's gone. Did you manage to burn? No, I mean, I doubt she had time to burn the body. She was fleeing for her life. Guess what? I met with Caius. You mentioned the tavern and Foggy's care. Tulia sighs with relief and rests her hands on her sides. Alive. That's good to hear, deserter or not. How's he doing? He's a man of faith now. Kind of. You describe vaguely what you've heard, making her scratch her shaved head. Well, that's news to me. I used to know him before he joined the army. Never seemed especially bothered with Wright's teachings. One time I saw him with that. She freezes and lets out a chuckle. Forget it. I'm glad he's okay. Have Have you ever encountered the bandits? She lets out a sigh. So there are other bandits in the woods after all. If I survive long enough to report it to someone, I'll be sure to mention it. I should learn more about them first. I mean... yeah, we'll take another look at the main hall. So let's see, it's basically dusk, so we should rest. I don't think I've got anything of particular interest in my inventory for the innkeep. I suppose I could ask him. He did want to buy my winged hourglass, didn't he? But I want to keep that because it was, like I said before, it was a bit of a password, if that makes sense, to get into one area at least. Let's speak to him. Any leftovers? Not today, no. Not today, no. Maybe tomorrow. He's gone West Country now. He was slightly American before. Alright, let's just go to sleep then. We have 3 dragon bones. We could rest, and I think we will, because we want to recover health and pneuma and be clean in the morning. That'd be quite nice. I don't need the healing spell, or do I? It would cost us 2, so I think probably not. Quite well nourished already. Let's do that. Okay. Well, the first bit's always the same, but the second bit seems to change. In the morning, you find a stool with a large wooden plate bearing an aromatic breakfast, an eggplant soup, a bowl of pears, and some crumbly biscuits. Downstairs, the innkeeper is putting firewood into the stove and asks if you need anything. Any leftovers? We'll ask every time. Oh, yep, you're unlucky. I was planning to give it to the boar. He goes to the stove and in a couple of minutes prepares you a meal. Here. You see old toasted bread and a large slice of mouflon cheese. While you're eating, he asks if you need anything else. Okay, so we're fully nourished, reasonably healthy, reasonably clean, fully magicked up, and half our armour remaining. If we go outside, the armour is nowhere to be seen. But that's okay, because we got half our armour. So we'll just leave that. We'll check on our fish trap. I'm not expecting it to have anything. It seems to be very... Yep. Okay. Don't need to wash in the river. Let's travel. We're going to go to the Elder's Cave. And from there we're going to go to Old Pagos. 2 ibexes, a male and a female, are lying on the rocky mountainside. A gentle wind is brushing their fur. The druid is sitting on the shore, keeping his legs in the water and observing the spring. His gaze is a bit absent, and he notices you only after you tap his shoulder. What do you need, traveller? I'm ready to take you to Old Pagos. Without a word, he walks through the metal door and leaves you alone for a few minutes. Once he returns, he holds a red staff and a linen bag, which he gives to you. I'm old, you'll carry it, he states matter-of-factly. He's changed into similar pants and a tunic, but their greens, blues and reds are lively. You don't see any stitches or patches. Still, he looks like an old commandant, not a priest. It says he says. He says and goes down the path. As you lead Roach, there isn't much of an opportunity to speak with the old druid. He looks around, observes the plants in the sky, but hardly ever glances towards you, and never for long enough to have a chance to read your lips. I follow him north. How far do we get? This looks like Howler's Dell. The locals drop their tools and head to the road, observing your approach anxiously and bowing to the elder. The commotion spreads to the other side of the wall as the villagers call their friends and families to gather around. Behind the open gates, you're welcomed by a tunnel of onlookers. The druid raises his hand and waves to no one in particular. He moves forward silently, not interested in what he sees. Once you get to the fruit-bearing trees, you turn right. Crossing the bridge is not easy for an old man, but he doesn't ask anyone to hold him, instead putting his weight on the staff and taking slow steps forward. The welcoming committee awaits you on the islet. The druids are gathered on one side while a group of elders are on the other. Tyre stands in your way, right before the second bridge. When you reach her, there's a long silence. Let us be. What we do here is unrelated to you. The mayor's eyes are filled with anger, yet her tone remains calm. We didn't wish to bother any of you. Quite the opposite, Roadwarden. 'Tis a great day for our village. The forest speaker has visited us again after so many years. I hope the news you're bringing is delightful. She raises her head and chillingly titters. There's no trace of her city accent. I'm not quite sure how to enact that. The elder's tone is both firm and polite. I have no words for any of you. If there'd been another path I could take, I would. He looks around slowly, observing the nearby faces. I'm glad to see you in good health. This place doesn't need me, and thanks to supporting, I can reach the people in great misfortune. He puts his free hand on your shoulder. Then Elpis steps forward, with fingers clenched around her staff. Beholder has been awoken. Our people have the right to its seed. You're robbing us of a fruit for which we've been waiting since spring. Her cadence is indistinguishable from your companions, and you notice their staves have an identical length. Maybe we should have gone round this village. It belongs to me. I made the sacrifice and I get to decide. And this stranger has chosen what none of you is brave enough to do. The man sounds like a disappointed teacher, and you realise he has heard the druidess, his voice without looking at her lips. Either you, Elpis. He points at the pale druidess with his staff, his hands shaking. To think you would dare to claim our holy totem as your belonging. Your soul is marked with corruption. He looks around. You who believe you deserve the seed, don't understand who you are, how lost you are. He moves his staff around, pointing at various faces. He wants to move forward, but the mayor puts her hands on her sides. In her eyes you see an unfamiliar glimpse of fear. You've already eaten the seed once, O speaker. Do not make us use force. There's no need for violence. Don't push us into it. The elder scoffs. I would sooner turn myself into a pike and swim down the stream to drop the seed into the swamps than let you rob the one who has followed our traditions. The Roadwarden did so in the name of what's right, and I believe it with my whole soul. His voice raises. 1 year. After everything I've done for you, I'm taking away but 1 year of prayers. Yet you still fight. What a pathetic day. He doesn't wait any longer. He steps forward and the mayor gets out of your way, observing the two of you with shame and fury. You cross the bridge, then the open gate. The man returns to silence, but his back is bowed, shoulders drooping. We're almost there. Well, might be a while before we're welcome back in Hallersdale. The man stops near the clearing and leans on his staff, contemplating the clearing silently. When I was but a brat, near bough was trimmed without a greater purpose. Not only for humans, both for the trees and land. Pinching the spirits was a misdeed. He turns to you, observing your lips. I've heard tales of great sages from before the days of the emperors, who restored such lands with a single spell, brought them back to life, helped us find forgiveness, the right path. And where are these sages now? Those are just stories. He glances at the dead trees, made up by those who dream of salvation, but don't know what they need to be saved from. Who think there's a balm that will cure a soul, the fate itself. He resumes his walk. I follow him. The hills are bright and colourful. The tall grasses and flowers dance with the wind, unaware of the countless grasshoppers, butterflies and mice that romp and prey among them. Dark green birds are circling above the walls and cliffs, arguing in tongues unknown to humans. With every breath you take in the summer in its dusk, the drying ground and the promise of rainfalls, as well as the pinching smoke coming from the funeral pyre set in the centre of the village, cutting the horizon like a column weaved from shadows. As time goes on, the old man's walking pace slows down, observing the lands around you with great interest. His keen eyes stop on trees, bushes and flowers, though it's the crops on the plateau that make him stop for a bit. After a minute or two he speaks. The plants want to fall. They need no more than 2 rains. The farmers need to come out right after dawn. He doesn't look at your lips, just turns around and approaches the second ascent, once again slowing down to climb it without your help. I tell the roach to the fence so it can graze on the meadow. The man awaits at the gate and reaches out to you. You give him the bag that he gave you back at his shelter. You don't have to stay away, but it will ne'er be pleasant. He sighs. I'll come out soon and we'll leave this place right away. The village may be cured, but that doesn't mean that the plague is cleansed. We can still be infected. He raises his red staff and uses it to knock on the gate. You don't wait long for the dark-eyed woman to open the peephole. This time there are not that many people around her. Let me in, says the druid. The peephole closes right away. After a few loud minutes of moving the wooden bars, the gate opens slightly. You have a couple of moments to look around. The few buildings you notice are unlike anything you've seen in this province, made of materials that resemble the rock faces seen on this very hill, with tiled roofs and stone walls. The gate closes gently. What do? Do we stay near the gate, or I think we walk away to have a better look? You return to your mount and put a hand on its side. It blows air from its nose, noticing your attention, but is way too focused on chewing to raise its head. The only sounds come from the grass, insects, birds. Suddenly you notice a beam of green light coming from the village, as well as a strong gust of wind that ends in complete silence. The druid staggers out through the gate, exhausted. I walk to him. When he sees your steps, he gestures for you to stop, with a weak smile hidden in the corners of his eyes. He kneels and leans forward, breathing heavily. He opens his bag, pulling out the weird fruit that you gave him. With shaking hands, he detaches the first slice of its skin, but before you take a good look at it, it turns into a grey powder and slips through the man's fingers. The rest of the fruit follows its example, covering the soil with an ash-like dust. The thing that remains resembles yet another fruit, or a cherry-sized seed, levitating in the middle of a floral ribcage. The man observes it for a few breaths, then reaches for it with 2 fingers, squishing it softly and puts it into his mouth. During the next minute he gets up, grins at you, dusts off his knees and takes a few steps forward which turn into a dance like skipping. He then descends from the hill without a word. You hear the joyful calls of the villagers, their hysterical laughter and names screamed at the sky, welcoming those that have awoken after a long dream. I prepare my horse and follow the druid. For the first hour, the elder swings his staff around like a conjurer in the marketplace and hums to himself like a drunkard. His walking pace remains stable. As time goes on, this frenzied state fades out. At first, he returns to using his staff and then gives you his bag. He looks down, hobbling, and finally asks you for help. I get him in the saddle. You help the man dismount, realizing how light he actually is. Holding your shoulder, he points at the bench near the spring. You help him sit down and place his staff and bag nearby. He's smiling, covered by sunbeams, stretching out his legs, leaning back to rest on the warm rocks. "We've done a good job," he says quietly but clearly. "Now all we can do is hope they'll stop cutting down the trees before the wild creatures push them into the sea." After a moment he opens his eyes and looks at your lips. "Thank you for your assistance." "And I thank you. 'Tis one of those strange things that make us different from so many creatures. We may not belong to a single pack, yet we've joined our strength and pursued the same goals." He looks at his small garden. "Save the lives of others just because we could. Our souls do make me wonder." He sighs. "I want to get some sleep. If you need anything before you leave, now's the time." I'd like to learn some more about the tribe of Green Mountain. He considers your question and finally looks at the sky, making his long hair fall on his back. "Listen closely, I'm not going to say anything else." He takes a deep breath and turns towards the pond, observing the current. "The road in the far east, one that's now abandoned, is near showing the truth. Look for a brook bridge made of stone. On its northern side, turn east again, go along the stream. It will be rough at first, but soon enough you'll get to the game trail, then a mountain. Climb it to reach the village of the tribe of the Green Mountain, who follow traditions older than any of ours. This grim tribe avoids the outside world. Rat's followers have hurt them deeply." Okay, so road in the east. Look for a bridge made of stone. Once we've crossed it, from the south, turn east and go along the stream. Okay. "If you want them to share a stew with you, this is what you should tell. I'm a freedom seeker, a friend of the speakers of the forest. Say these words like an unwanted guest looking for a roof. They don't want you there, but prove to them that you're willing to listen, not just speak." He turned towards you. "There's nothing else to say." Oh, interesting. I've got some other questions. What can you tell me about the other druids? He strokes his beard gently. "The forest guides us and we share its wisdom with the tribes. We and they ought to stay humble, take from the land what is needed instead of what's wanted. Not because 'tis something we believe in, but because it protects us from the wrath of the herds. To stay safe, one needs to know how to be patient, take restraint into their hearts, and to make the beasts listen to us. We keep the animals healthy, teaching them to ne'er approach our homes and travellers." Sounds reasonable. Do you need anything else? Since you know so much about nature, can you predict the weather for me? If 'tis so easy, why can't every soul learn to read the weather? His harsh gaze shifts into an amused smile. But it may just be that my ancestors have taught me a few tricks. It takes him a few minutes to study the clouds, listen to the wind, touch the rocks and observe the flight of birds and insects. In the end, he crouches with a flexibility that's surprising for his age and speaks out loud a few words in the old speech, drawing a vague symbol in the ground with a finger, then almost violently grasping the soil. He stands up and blows into his fist, spreading its content in front of him. He then nods towards you. The winds will be gentle, but the light will hide behind clouds. Can I enter the cavern? I need a place to rest. So be it. We are a humble people and we do not have much to offer, but at least there's the scrap of floor for you to lie down on and a stream to wash yourself. Follow me. The door, made of steel and surrounded by bricks, could protect a treasury or an armory. The same amount of iron could be used for dozens of tools or over 100 high-quality spears. You wonder what would happen if there were no more druids around. Would scavengers detach it and melt it down? Would it stay here for centuries as a relic to the past? There's a single plate in the middle used to lock or unlock a hatch, and an additional padlock which requires its own, awkwardly large key. There may be a similar device on the other side. The gate squeals, and moving it makes the man pant. We walk inside. The cavern is austere, lit only by several candles. The corridor leading deeper underground is flooded. The air is humid but free of mould and putridity, despite all the wooden furniture around. The man points at a bunch of brown and grey furs lying on the floor, mostly taken from boars and deer, though there's also an especially large one that belonged to a red and black bear. Feel free to pile them up, they should make for a soft bed. Just be sure to spread them around when you wake up. I need them to cover as much ground as they can. He also nods towards a wooden table where you see an array of expensive instruments made of glass, gold and copper. Bottles, scales, knives, alembics, mortars, a crucible. And if you don't know much about alchemy, stay away. 'Tis expensive, a keepsake. If I find a single scratch on it, you will never be welcome here anymore. I look at the woman lying in bed covered by a blanket. She's more touched by time than the man. Her eyes are wide open and observe you with something between fear and curiosity. But when you make eye contact with her, she starts to murmur nervously and covers her head with a blanket. The man also notices her movement and strokes his beard when he sees you looking at her. Oh, that's my wife, and the best thing you can do is to ignore her. Her soul is shattered. Her shell is weak. She no longer speaks. She was the owner of this table. You ask if she won't be bothered by your presence, and you see a sad smile. She will forget about you soon after she looks away. But she's dangerous in a way. If you keep your distance, she will not approach you, but when she's stressed, her powers take control over her. Protecting a mad magic user is difficult, traveller. I nod, I won't bother her. He nods and moves towards the door. And you have my thanks. I will not use the padlock. You can leave whenever you want. Your mount will be safe, you can be sure of it. He leaves without another word. Now, what's in the flooded corridor? You take a candle to look down the corridor, but it doesn't help much. It leads downwards. You see the spot where the ceiling touches water. Mines often resemble labyrinths, and even if there's any sort of magic which would allow you to swim without air, the risk that you would lose your way back is too grave. Okay, we're going to go outside. We've still got over 6 hours before dusk, so we don't need to worry too much. We can approach the spring. Maybe we could wash ourselves. Doesn't look like that's the case. Let's travel. So we could go and see the monks because we've got their quill type things. Hopefully they'll pay us. We can't get to Gale Rocks. Oh no, we can get to Gale Rocks. It looks a bit greyed out, but actually it's not. Okay, well let's go to the monastery first. Finish off this little quest. Hit by the cold, howling wind, you adjust your cloak. You spot just a few hooded figures by the brook. The loud thudding of tools that comes from the cave mouth echoes through the valley. You call the monks by hitting the sticks and the drawbridge lowers. Eli guards gestures for you to enter the storage house with his bandaged hand. Warden, he nods, is all right? His young companion is right next to him, observing your palfrey. I bring news from Old Pagos. The plague is no more. Eli flinches as doubt and distrust replace his look of surprise. How? I helped an elder druid from Howler's Dell recover his strength. He healed the people of Old Pagos, and with a bit of luck the illness won't return. He looks at Decima, not sure how to react, but her wide-opened eyes don't help him much. He reaches out to you with an open palm of his bandaged hand. His fingers are flinching. Will you wait here? I'll gather our order. We'd be honoured to hear the entire story. For a moment he sounds exactly like the tribe from Old Pagos. Sure, I have time. He climbs uphill and enters the cave mouth next to the wooden bridge. His short companion follows your movements like an owl would a snake, blocking your path to the storehouse. You feel the weight of your axe. Soon, new hooded figures gather in the yard. Is it true? You hear a couple of times. When Eli returns, there's maybe 20 souls around you, sitting on the ground, leaning against the walls, standing upright or wandering around, keenly observing you. The oldest man, wrinkled, blind and tiny, is sitting on a stool brought by a boy who can't be older than 10. Not all of them wear sandals or carry bags or have their hoods on, but all of them wear similar dark robes. Seems like only the children are allowed to keep their hair longer than an inch. In the city harbour, many would take them for refugees. Maybe we should keep Beholder to ourselves. That's more of a pagan thing. I don't know what their reaction would be. I'd hate for them to go and chop the tree down. That would be bad for the region, I think. So let's be a little bit guarded as to what we actually say. They keep interrupting you with questions about the druid, his powers, or your motivations, and while avoiding the pagan altar makes you stumble once or twice, your story goes smoothly. The doubts turn into warm thanks, despite the few raised eyebrows of the elders. A young boy mentions his sister, but is then reprimanded to forget about the past. Finally, Eli asks the gathering to return to their duties. He gives you a serious look, rubbing the liver spots on his hands. There's aught else we need to discuss. Go ahead. Our prelate wants to see ye, thee, he coughs, but they're old and feeble and don't speak unless they have to, and only with those who can be trusted. He gives you a telling look. Thou mayest not be a friend of our order, but we hope to find in thee our ally. I'd be honoured to meet with them, try my best to gain your trust. He snorts. Thy deeds will speak for thee. Oh yes, about the things you asked me to do. Here are your quills. He reaches for the case with his bandaged hand and opens it gently. He greets them with a wide yellow smile. So our deal was about 5 dragons? Right. He hesitates as he reaches into his bag and pulls out the reward, then hands it to you with his bare hand. Fair coin for a fair work. I spoke with Eudocia about her sentinels. Your report takes you a good few minutes, especially since Eli spares you no questions. After you mention that the golems are meant to be available for purchase, he gives Decima a worried look. She's inviting a dragon, he says in the end. He walks up and down the path with his hands behind his back, like a commander preparing themselves for battle. No tribe could stop a squad of these. Most troubling news. Awful. I took a closer look at the golems. You described their looks and mentioned the unusual engravings you noticed on the larger rocks. Eli listens carefully, but it takes him a few heartbeats to respond. Such signs may be dangerous. He wipes his lips with his bandaged hand. I've read about the city golems. They're different. We may need help from an experienced fighter, but we lack such souls in the order. He finally lowers his hand, observing a child who hums a simple melody at the edge of a cliff. That's all. What bothers ye, thou? Eudocia the Enchantress wants to place these rods in high points. Can you help me out? You've brought her magic here. He steps back while Decima turns towards you and reaches behind her back with one hand. Eli's voice is close to a shout. Take it away before you put all of us in danger. Calm down, it's just a piece of bronze. His pale face starts turning red. The echo adds a thunder to his words. You're not asked for your thoughts. You think yourself a judge after you put your trust in that witch. He points at you with the bandaged finger. She's a beast in clothes. Its claws will tear away thy head. That's a no, then. With the plague gone, would you brew something that could help me in my journey? Oh, we need to restore our supplies first. He glances at the nearby garden. Most of its fruits and leaves are already plucked. Well, there's something I can offer thee. Bring me a cave here, I think we've got one of those, a mushroom that grows in humid chambers underground, and snake bait, an orange flower from the deep woods, though some smoke it for pleasure. On their own they're poisonous, together even more so. He snorts, but I can turn it into a dust that sharpens one's senses, good for combat. He cracks his knuckles. In one night I could prepare 3 doses or so, but use them with care. Once the pneuma loosens, they'll weaken your shell. So will the prelate agree to meet with me? He adjusts said, the time is right. Follow me into the temple. It won't take long. You join Eli in front of the entrance. You run your eyes over the harsh grey floor, sparsely covered by tufts of grass and mushrooms. Only a few steps separate you from the darkness. Take a wrong step and thou wilt break thy neck. His quiet voice echoes through the corridor, but there are also other sounds reaching you from the depths. The repetitive hits of a hammer and chisel, as well as of a distant pickaxe. The man doesn't look at you. Hand on my shoulder. Don't let go. Alright, touch his shoulder gently. You leave the light behind and your pace slows down. Decima's steps are followed by the sweeping sound of her robe. For a few breaths your heels hit the solid rock, then move onto wooden logs. The echo of the occasional creaks is worthy of a wraith. Your gasp as well when you stumble over a rope. Sorry, I think that's a misspelling. You gasp as well when you stumble over a rope, but Eli's confident hand saves you from falling to the floor. After a minute or two, you get used to the scent of soggy beams. The gentle draft makes you think of a stream, and you focus your ears. The hum of water is weak, but once noticed, unmistakable. Counting your steps leads you to nothing. You don't make any sharp turns, following the rounded corridor. At one point, the monk grabs your free fingers and makes you touch the smooth wall. Watch your steps. You hear the hoarse whisper, then walk down the stairs carefully. Another minute goes by, and it happens again. Then again. Almost there. Eli stops in place. All I can do is wait. You recognize the sound of him opening his bag. He turns your hand around, palm up, and covers it with cold, soft balm. Put it on your eyelids. His voice is confident. It will help, but not for long. Don't walk away. You rub your eyelids, catching the scent of snow and tallow candles. I look around. For a few heartbeats, the brightness is overwhelming. Even after you cover your eyes, but the sensation fades away. Everything around you turns grey. The walls, your companions, even your very skin are now monuments made of ash. The hollow mountain has the shape of a cone. You step back away from the edge of the narrow wooden platform, only to then approach it and look down. The magic balm is strong. It allows you to spot maybe 24 layers of scaffolding. You spot another hooded figure a couple of floors below you. It holds the chisel against the wall, hitting it with the hammer. Their confident hands maintain the tiring rhythm. I inspect the engravings behind me. You can't tell their age, but the cuts are deep. They're letters larger than your hand, and some of them are filled with old, dry paint, although to you, like everything else, it looks grey. Read it out loud. You hear a voice coming from your left, not much louder than the distant humming of water. I look towards the one who speaks. I don't know how. Few travellers can. Their voice starts like a dying breath, but then shifts, resembling an oration delivered by a priest. They heard of Samara's deeds and believed her, for her soul carried no lies. They followed her north, like the Rite had told her, and built houses of wood in the land of 3 lakes. The Rite taught Samara new tools and new traps, and her children and grandchildren have never seen hunger, for their land was tamed. I'm assuming this is the monk who's been leading us, but it says, the person in a monk's robe is sitting on a bench, covering themselves with a headless pelt. They're short, wrinkled, skinny as if they haven't eaten in years. They sit still with their head leaning against the wall, eyes closed and hands folded. Okay, so this is going to be his voice. Dost thou know what these words are? Of course, it's from Wright's tablets. They have the accent of Hovlevan elders, but their lips are struggling to utter any sound. Well done. We're on the 2nd floor of the tribe of Leaves. The tribe started as foragers and fruit pickers, too afraid to hunt, with no faith to guide them outside of their cave. But the Rite inspired them with the truth of what they were and of what they could become. They helped Adir build one of the 10 cities, and their blood and memory now remains in each of us. I am exhausted. Their breathing remains silent, but their chest starts to rise and fall. But I wanted thee to see this place. I can see it, but what is it exactly? One day, these walls will hold all of Right's tablets. Maybe in 5 years, maybe in 25. These ancient caves used to be covered by painted hands and beasts, but we scraped the walls clean, giving way to the truth. The prelate raises their hands by an inch, but their voice remains monotonous. The work went slowly, and we abandoned our goal. But then the war tore the 10 cities to pieces. They're wheezing, fighting for air. It made us realize how crucial our duty is. The parchment will burn. The wood covers will rot. The golden plates will be stolen. But these caves lasted for more generations than we can count. They will outlast every page, every teacher. They raise their voice. The library in stone will be here, ready to teach our offspring. The final stronghold of the truth. As long as there's one soul who can read the Adir's tongue, there will be hope. A long pause. Haley looks at you expectantly, rubbing his hands together. Decima stares at you like an eagle. So why am I here? What do you expect me to do? One of us came here from the city 5 years ago and told us many things about her home. The city lacks grain and wood and parchment. The Unites grow poor. They raise their hand to wipe saliva from their mouth, taking longer and longer pauses. Thou art not here to ward the roads, but to prepare it for thy masters. They will bring death and pillage. They stretch out their hand, palm up. Tell them about the library, that it needs their protection, that once we complete it, we'll give it away. Just let Old Pagos be in peace. Their hand lands on their stomach. Their chin rests on their chest. They're gasping for air. Protect this place. Fine, I'll pass along your message. The prelate nods gently, resting. Haley clears his throat. I thank thee in their name. Let's get back while the ointment is still working. He gestures for you to follow him, but seeing the world in only in greys takes getting used to. You place steps carefully and climb the stairs on all fours. The monk continues. Thou can ask me about one of our secrets as a reward, but dost not share what thou hast learned here with any of the tribes. We ought to keep our duty a secret. A secret, fine. You move without a word, leaving behind the sounds of steps, hammers, and the stream. Your eyes lose their sharpness slowly, but also restore their ability to perceive colours. Before you reach the mouth of the cavern, Eli lets you grab his shoulder again. After getting outside, you take a couple of deep breaths. The monk absently heads towards the storehouse, waiting for Decima to join him. When asked about the prelate's sleep, she spares her companion a sad shrug. Finally, he meets your eyes and puts on a gentle smile. Now, we can ask some questions about the monastery, but I'm not that interested, honestly. 2 hours 45. Where can we get to in that time? Oh, we're a bit limited now. We can head back to Howler's Dell, but I don't know what kind of reception's going to be waiting for us. But honestly, that's probably the best option. Hey, stop up at Old Pagos, maybe they'll let us in. As you descend, you think of Eli's reaction to the bronze rod. You could ignore him and take a few minutes to tie it to one of the ledges just nearby. This place is already high above the woodlands. Just in case, I look behind and then get on the ground. You seek a spot that isn't too easily seen from the trail, then make sure it won't crumble under your weight. After a few minutes, you finish placing the rod, held by a cord and a few heavy rocks. You doubt anyone would stumble upon it. I continue my journey. Through the closed gate you hear muffled conversations and echoes of stone cutting. You knock and Tertia soon orders to open it. She stands in the middle, in front of dozens of members of her tribe, though you're still told to keep your distance. The signs of illness are carved in the exhausted faces of the elders and the children. But this is not the day of sadness. You're greeted with triumphant shouts and applause. Tertia turns out to be tall and skinny, holding a spear that would be too long for most, but suits her size. While her tribesfolk are wearing tunics and robes made of ibex fur or hemp, she has put on an impressive breastplate made from an animal shell. She has short, dark hair, and while her skin is dark brown, you can tell there are others in her village who carry the blood of the Southerners. Her voice matches her cheerful brown eyes as she speaks in the names of her people. We keep ye in our prayers, Sir Boring. If we could, we would invite you to a feast, but we have to keep our distance, at least till the end of winter. We'd like to reward you, even if there's naught that would make us even. Oh? There's no but one treasure we own in this village, a stuff very close to our hearts. She raises a rod made of iron or steel, a bit longer than a finger span, but thin, finished with a flattened edge for cutting. It occurs to you that it's just a simple chisel. Huh. An elderly man chips in. It belonged to my son, the greatest sculptor that has ever lived in Old Pagos, to Wright's glory and our great joy. His words are sonorous and solemn. Okay. It's filled with pneuma that makes his holder's hand so powerful they can carve in granite, so precise they can write in glass. A short pause. And if you think you won't put it to much good use, adds Tertia, we took the time to gather our savings. It's not much, 18 dragons, but not nought. Her chuckle sounds like it belongs to a different soul, one lost in the past. Okay, I'm tempted to take the chisel. Money comes and goes, but that could be useful. She throws the rod towards you and it lands next to your boots. It's as warm as your own skin. Be blessed, Warden. Be blessed, Warden, a small girl shouts, and return to us in spring so we can show you our home. And you hear many more words of gratitude. I show my respect with a bow. After some time, the villagers disperse and Tertia's eyes brighten. Her confident stance adds strength to her voice. Is there aught else you need, Sir Boring? Okay, yes, we do. Eudocia, the enchantress from the east, wants to know if Eulalia and Irenaeus have avoided the sickness. A long, uncomfortable silence. Yeah, she's too late. They were asking for their daughter in the nightmares before the illness took away their tongues. We burned both of them on the same day, if it means aught to her. She looks down. Tell her I'm sorry for her loss. I hope she found the peace she was looking for. Did any hunters from creeks come here? She frowns. You're the first soul who came here in a very long time. I've been in many settlements warning the locals about the plague. You don't have to worry about their safety. Oh, thank you, Warden. She bows gently. I'll ask the council to rethink our isolation. With the gates and doors of our neighbours closed, we could start seeking food after all. Maybe even send outside a few hunting trips. Which way would you take if you were to travel to the watchtower? The northern route, most likely. There's more tribes there, but the eastern road is dangerous, no matter from which way you're going to enter it. But if you care about time, she hesitates, you could check on the gate, the one guarded by Quintus. It's the most dangerous path, but your palfrey may just be fast enough to get you through. You ask her what her thoughts on the gatekeeper are. You ask her what are her thoughts on the gatekeeper, and she gives you a warm look. He may not be the sharpest wits, but he's loyal to his duty and returns kindness with kindness, like we all should. I'd like to hear what you have to say about the other villages. Which ones? How about Howler's Dell? They're the closest village. You can get there riding south from the crossroads with the 4 signposts. But don't trust them. She gives you a piercing gaze. They have an order of druids who bow to animals and dead spirits. And the mayor, Tice, has too many grand ideas in her head and a tongue dancing to lies. 10 years ago, she tried to tie the tribes in the north of the Pact, yet wanted to grasp all the wealth, telling us we should pay her for protection. Her voice rises. Her laughter is as hollow as her soul. Long pause. Don't let them cloud your eyes. They have food, riches, mead, and pretty houses. But all of those carry poison, and this poison is what leads them. Like White Marshes. Such a deceiving name for that dark place. Rotten to the core, led by a pagan blinded by his wicked wits. His followers are closer to evil spirits than the humans, for they use the empty ones as their tools. There's fury in her eyes. Her voice raises. We refused to trade with them even before that priest called himself a prophet. They swim in death and will soon drown. You ask her a few questions, but most of her words are little more than an ardent condemnation. One part in particular draws your attention. The road through the bogs is dangerous, spiked with weird beasts. Some of them yell with human-like voices, luring travellers away from the main path. When your knees are in water, these beasts, jump from a tree on your back, biting your skin off. Even White Marsh is a little more than a trap set in the woods. What about Gale Rocks? It's in the north, just on the coast. They follow Wright's teachings, work hard and live humbly. We used to trade with them and take our clothes to Rafina for fixing, but they betrayed our trust, and if it weren't for the plague, we'd be sharpening our blades. You ask her to share with you the entire story, which instead is told by a young man. He claims that his group was transporting a statue ordered to the tribe of Creeks, yet when they, during their stay in the tavern at the Northern Road, it mysteriously disappeared. It must be the bandits doing, adds Tertia. They keep spreading their arms wider, but we won't allow them to stay untouched with or without Gale Rox's help. Tell me about Creeks. I don't know much about them. It's a small village in the Far East, younger than me. They came here as refugees from the war and now hunt for wild meat and pelts, but have got almost no dragon bones to spare. When they tried to get our bricks, we had to refuse. You ask her a few more questions, but she cocks her head and gives you a bored look. We've got little reason to travel so far, and they wouldn't be great neighbours or friends. They drink a lot, hunt for sport, die often, and give birth to many children. I wouldn't rely on them. Tell me about the tribe of the Green Mountain. She sizes you up. I don't know what you've heard, but they never bothered us, and neither offered us their friendship. The tribe keeps its distance from those who follow Right's tablets. Ask other pagans, or their elders. No more questions. Go ahead, friend. Nothing more to speak about. We've got 2 hours now till dusk. Can't stay there, obviously. The only other place we can really stay is Howler's Dell, which I doubt we're going to get a warm reception at. Once you're done with the unpacking, the 3 armed men show up behind you. The gambazons are tightly fastened, eyes grim. She wants to see you, says the man with the braided beard. He's holding a large stone mace. And you'll come now. You mean Tice? He ignores your question. Leave your weapon here. He nods towards Roach. Move. Seems like I don't have a choice. You're surrounded by curious glances and worried whispers. Tice is in her usual spot, holding a mug with both hands. She doesn't have to say a thing. The dining neighbours get on their feet and leave the square without bothering their plates. Erix enters the building. Akakios heads towards the tiny islet. Excluding the guards, who watch her every step, you two are alone. She waves a hand and you get pushed onto a stool, almost hitting the ground. Forgive us all these precautions, she says with a thick local accent, observing you with piercing green eyes. But I'm not sure who you are. Near an ally, near a threat. Her pale fingers are tapping on the wood, yet her face is like a statue. I'm a Roadwarden. The people of Old Pagos called for help and I answered. May they keep their scrap of land safer, for the sake of all of us. Yeah, or we could just rebuff her completely, or we could say I wouldn't forgive myself for sacrificing this many lives. You can spare 1 magic fruit for them, Tice. Do that one. She covers her mug with her palm. Dinna dare to tell me what I can and canna spare. I owe shit to the other tribes. You think they would save me from danger? Or any of the souls I care about? When she realises that her fingernails are scratching the wood, she hides her hands under the table. So, this is it. You took away our treasure because of a soft heart. The others? She runs her eyes over the people who are staying at the edge of the square. Didn't know what it means to fight for their own good. They're a sacrifices harsher than blood and magic trinkets. She stares at you harshly. And you're sacrificing my trust? I stay silent. I'm not pity so boring. She returns to the accent of the city folk. You can still enjoy your stay at our lovely village, she says with a sigh, then puts on her usual smile with a hint of a smirk. We can still use your services. You may be a stranger, but at least you carry dragon bones. The guard pushes you away and the other people read it as a sign. They get back to their tasks and meals, avoiding your eyes. And the air gets lighter. I look around. Okay, so I guess we could talk to Tice and give her some news. How can I help you, so boring? Do you know Eudosha, the enchantress? I'd like to hang this rod on a watchtower for her. You let her weigh a rod in her hand. It's empty, she says. What is it for? I think we should lie to her. We could say it tracks rain and winds. She's trying to learn if the entire peninsula has the same weather at all times. She clasps her hands around her knees. Since when does she pay attention to the skies? You want me to believe she's looking after crops? She tilts her head to the left and purses her lips. Even if such knowledge could have its use, I'm far from trusting her. You should also be worried. She spends a few long breaths in silence, rolling the piece of bronze on the table. I wait for her decision. My neighbours have some kind words to say about you. They won't oppose a piece of bronze. You have my permission to put it on whichever tower you want. Thanks. Eric shows up with a plate of red radishes, salted, roasted and cut into slices. He invites you both to help yourselves, but before he leaves, Tyus grabs his hand and looks into his eyes. They smile at each other without a word. After a few heartbeats, she turns back towards you. I don't really know your plans, Sir Boring. Are you planning to stay in the north, maybe find a family? I don't know what my long-term plans are. Yes, actually, I think I'll look for a new home here. The innkeep nods politely. The peninsula could use a regular warden. Before he finishes his thought, his wife chips in. Too bad we can't really squeeze a new house into our village, but I'm sure you'll find plenty of empty huts in the north. He gives her a surprised glance, but then nods towards you and heads back to the inn. Tice gives you a polite smile. I bring news about the other parts of the peninsula. I am listening. I've been to the caves under the... Oh no, did we promise to keep that secret? But it was only secret from the Merchants Guild, wasn't it? So I've been to the caves under the monastery. The monks are trying to engrave the entirety of the rites tablets on the walls. She listens to your tale with a growing smirk. And that's it. No treasury, no... She waves her hand by her face as if she's trying to gather more ideas in the air. Secret spells or napping dragons? Oh, ridiculous. Just a dumb waste of effort. She bursts into laughter and asks a young man to bring both of you and her a mug of ale. Well, there's one thing I don't have to worry about. The monks are worried about her golems. They asked me to make sure they're not a threat. I can't say I blame them, but I thought she and they at least share some of their goals. She crosses her legs, dangling her foot as she gathers her thoughts. That sorceress is only a few seasons away from being a crazy witch. One who lives in a tower, surrounded by a thunderstorm, with a pointy hat and a talking doorknob. We could tell her. I'm going to tell her that the druid doesn't like her. Her face is a perfect mask of indifference, yet she squeezes her deer-shaped buckle. She doesn't say a thing, and that's all I have to say. Here's a silly question, Sir Boring. What future do you see for the peninsula? Imagine being the chieftain of the north. What would be your order? The settlements would join the 10 cities, create a trade route with the guild, cut negotiations, work together, make the place safe, and maybe start a new village. Yeah, settlements work together and share their goals. You find sadness in her eyes. I had similar hopes, but there's too much bad blood between us. It makes us weak. She looks towards the creek. But it would take a soul of great charisma to bury our discords. Do you need my assistance? She licks her lips. Let me think about it, won't you? In the meantime, you could bring me some delightful rumours. Thank you for your time. Right, everything's going to be closed, so let's just go to sleep. So what do we need? We need to... Recovering a bit of health would be good. We've got 7 coins, so... Recovering magic is not too essential, so I could... It'd be good to get a bit of food in the morning and get a bit cleaner, I think. So we'll do that. We'll rent for 2. You spend the night in peace in a clean bed with a tightly shut window and a warm blanket. In the morning you find a stool placed by your bed, covered with fried salmon and sorrel sauce and a bowl of gruel. Once you get dressed and go downstairs, a young boy who's covered in mud and speaks unusually loud and enthusiastically mentions that Roach has already been brushed and watered. You nod, but he runs outside without noticing. The innkeeper sitting near the door, from time to time carrying out another bowl of either stew or gruel. Tyus is nowhere to be seen. You leave the square. Okay, so we've got a new option here. Since Tyus has allowed me to do so, I'm going to place a bronze rod on the top of the watchtower. Done in about half an hour. You approach the same tower you've climbed before. There's a teenage girl crouching on the bank of the creek washing laundry and bowls. With a smile, she offers to hold the rope ladder for you. Accept. She puts on her sandals and approaches the ladder. Go ahead! She keeps it still as you climb to the top. Even when the wind gets stronger, you feel in control. It takes you a fair bit of time, but with a couple of cords you attach the rod to the outer wall. You make sure that even a strong push wouldn't make it fall down. Once you touch the ground, the girl doesn't walk up to you, but tries to make eye contact. There's a nice view from there, eh? Young kids this tall? She holds her hand near her waist. always climb up when near souls watching. Her kind smile contrasts with her bored and different eyes. Yeah, I'm busy. She scoffs and walks back to the creeks. Let's go and see the tailor. Maybe they can fix our clothes. Say, I'm interested in a new set of clothes. She stops her work and looks at you briefly. Aye, I can tell. You don't even hear a hint of mockery. But that's a lot of work, and I dinna take my work lightly. If I were to give you anything, people would see it, and I'll nearly let you show them some rags. And by that you mean your prices are high. Reach for a pouch, and she answers with a nod. It'll take me a day or so to finish in a fine fabric. Your city clothes are... She frowns. Just fine for the wilderness, I guess. What I'll give you is for the time with lamb meat and mead near pathfinding. The longer the outfit you want, the higher the price. Though we'll consider the things people say about you as well. We can discuss it. Everything's way too expensive. So we're going to say no to all of that. Show the necklace. I think we've already done that. Oh, in Gale Rocks, they do like the shells and fish. It is like when some people wear claws and tusks. She pushes it back to you. Maybe when 'twas still new 'twas pretty. Gambler's will need some work. You take it off and point at its tears. The woman follows your finger patiently. Here's my price. For 2 dragon rings, I'll patch it up in half an hour. If it was in worse shape, I'd ask for more time and more rings. To get it truly strong for longer, I'd need it to be made of better materials like spider silk. Where do you get the spider silk? 'Tis a silk made by spiders. I meet her eyes. She's the first one to break the silence. The large ones. They use it to spin webs. It's stronger than thread, but my neighbours don't walk to the woods anymore. It's getting harder and harder to get any silk. Let me think about it. So it's more expensive than the other place, but it's also here. So let's do that. I'll get our clothes patched up a bit as well. Right, down to 2 coins, but we're looking pretty presentable again. Alright, we're going to travel. Where do we want to go? Look through my journal. What are we doing in terms of quests here? We're still looking for the old Roadwarden. Bronze rods. Place 3. So that's not too bad. Chocolason. Got to go back to Foggy and give her a message. Fallen tree. I think we're just following those bandits, aren't we? Fetching food. Quintus won't let me use the gate unless I bring in 5 food rations. That's quite a lot. Hidden village, matchmaking. We could speak to Marina again. I think she was given a last message by Shoshi. Missing hunters. Haven't found really any information on them. Arentius. I thought I reported back to Tice about that. That's another reason to go to White Marshes. Ruined village. Spirit Rock. That's another reason to go back to Gale Rocks. Okay. Oh, there's loads of stuff here. Oh, those are completed quests. Okay, well, we don't need to look at those. So, in terms of travelling, could go back to Gale Rocks, maybe tick off a couple of things. Quite tempted to go back to White Marshes. We know we've got to put a thingy there anyway. So we need to go to the peat fields and talk to the guy there again. So let's do that. So you can open the sort of plant gate that's in our way. The gentle breeze is soothing but spoiled by the sour scent of rotting soil. Thyrsus is sitting on a bench, observing your arrival as he's grinding something in a mortar. You greet him, but he asks you to wait a minute, and only after he's satisfied with his work does he leave his tools behind and move to the edge of the scarp. The creepers on his arm are slightly raised. There's a man living in Gale Rocks who tries to heal his spellless daughter. The warlock cuts in right after you mention Eudocia's rock. I can't remember his voice. Whatever it is, there's no way anyone other than a real prophet would help that girl. Numa's weak in my tribe, you know. Myself, I'm gifted, yep, but I had no teachers here. He shrugs his arms, making the creepers bend upward. Took the pagan priest from Howlsdale to help me twist more than a twig. If there was a way to put humour in shells for good, people would kill to find it. I don't know about Valen's situation. I don't even know. Can't even remember who Valens is. He stares into the distance towards the village. Ah, poor thing. I think it's the guy who with the wax tablet letter, the Dear John letter. Poor thing, a fair soul with too much patience, but there's nothing I can do. After you ask him for advice, he spits on the ground. Lie, I guess. Laurentius already did. Won't be happy with you causing pain to his people, and Helvius neither, unless the hunter was lying too. Does he have anything to sell? He eagerly smiles and steps away, reaching to the doorknob with his right creeper. Odds and ends, want to buy a hook? Venturers love those, and I've got it for cheap. He doesn't give you time to respond. On most days, I brew and mix stuff and poisons and medicine. If one's desperate enough to cross the bogs for it, I have one that withers plants, and one that kills worms and bugs, and one that keeps flies away for better health. Well, I'll have a look. Can't afford anything. Grappling hook, bug-killing ointment, insect ointment, wither plant ointment. That all sounds great. I don't have any money to buy any of it. Does he know about Asterian's whereabouts? He raises his chin. Know what? I may. His amulets rattle after his triumphant announcement, but he then looks at the clouds in the distance. You wait for him to carry on, but to no avail. I sigh. So, what do you want? He flinches. Huh? Oh, no thing. He shifts from foot to foot. Was just thinking to Sol. Where is he then? Well, not at my place, for sure. To prove his point, he raises one of his creepers and opens the door, though from where you're sitting you see mostly the cold fireplace and the darkness behind it. But you do have an idea where I can look for him. Yeah, but a monster's lair, most likely. You meet his eyes. I nod. Any monster in particular? He looks away and reaches for one of the bracelets. He asked me to help with many. Was heading for a journey, he said. Needed bogey balms to scare animals away. You push him a bit, but he doesn't have to think long, as if these questions have been bothering him for the entire season. Weirdest ones were for the harpies, and he wanted ones for sea monsters. But I've no such things. I can't poison the sea. As you think what to make of it all, he starts to tap his toes, taking a deep breath. There's a huntress living in Pelt to the north. It's in at the southern road, Dallet. Asterian said she knows wild beasts like no other soul, so he was prepared for them anyway. What do you think of him? He stands with an open mouth as if he's not sure what you mean by that. I don't. Left me with a heavier pouch, but asked nosy questions like someone else I know. He gives you a telling look. That's all. I need you to open the path to White Marshes. Then you know what I need you to do. He smiles and reaches for his basket. Alright, we'll give him a food ration. How much do we actually have now? 6. That's quite a lot. Very fine. He licks his lips, and once he spots a piece of jerky among your gifts, he reaches for it right away. With a full mouth, he snaps his fingers and mutters something with satisfaction. Okay, so I assume I can travel to White Marshes now. I can. On your way to the village, you see a girl no older than 15, walking through the tall purple grasses along with a few other youngsters. After she notices your arrival, she runs towards the road, waving to draw your attention. I stop. Can I help? It takes her a few more moments to reach you. Her clothes are baggy, appropriately so for her age, but she's also rather scraggy for a labourer. She carries a slingshot and a simple backpack made of creepers and twigs, filled with green leaves, wild fruits, and a dead squirrel lying on the surface. After your question, she gives you a curious glance. Roadwarden parents told me. Not sure which part of it is a question, you nod in agreement. But what is it the one does, really? Hunt bounties? Mostly I patrol the roads between villages. Some seek bounties, yes, but I do all sorts of things, whatever's needed. Oh, you're an adventurer then. She makes an odd displeased grimace and then sneezes and smiles at you. Well, not really. Adventurers are paid to do odd jobs, but often don't follow the city laws nor the local ones, unlike road wardens. Yep, makes sense. She nods but looks around with a frown. So you're a mercenary for sorts. They do follow laws if the pay is right. Even less so, mercenaries follow the rules of their employers, but they get hired only as fighters, either as guards or one-time soldiers. They mostly learn how to fight other humans. But aren't you a soldier? She waves towards her companion, showing them not to worry about her. You work for the city, right? I do, but I work only with my mount and answer only to the chieftain. I've no lieutenant, and am required to handle many tasks on my own. Securing shelters, for example, or staying alive in the wilderness. I don't occupy any specific spot, and I'm not allowed to collect taxes. Her tone is confident when she pats her slingshot. Hear this then, you're part pathfinder, part adventurer. The city pays you to cross the woods by yourself, and you do odd jobs for your own sake. Fine. You figured it out. I did! She meets your eyes proudly. I guess there's a tiny reason to call such a soul a Roadwarden. Safe travels! She waves to you and runs back to the rest of her group. I'll ride through the gate. I shall speak with Valens. Any news, Roadwarden? I know what's in the letter. He puts a hand on his forehead. You can't tell if it's a sign of relief or tension. I'm going to tell him the truth. Repeat to him his husband's words. At first he freezes and then gives a hateful look towards Arentius's hut. He knew what this piece of shit did, he growled. He always asked to be heard, only to spread lies. Why do I need to find a stranger to hear the truth for once in my life? His eyes get gentler once he looks at you, but you notice the tears in his eyes. His shaking hands offer you the reward. Now about the tablet. Here you go. I don't want it. He steps away. You know what? Take this. He pulls out a bone stylus that perfectly matches the colours of the tablet. Together they'll buy you a few meals at a trader's stall. Good luck, Warden. Farewell. The shuffling gait of an undead, still covered with flesh, makes all the other sounds weirdly quiet. You notice a skinny woman with a blue headscarf. She stares at your mount like a wolf at an elk. Let's talk to the woman who's looking at Roach. She moves away but meets your eyes and makes a smile-like grimace, then leads you behind the empty animal pen, away from the guard's ears. Her grey hair, mostly covered, is deceiving. She's no older than 30, yet her face is marked by insect bites and pustule scars. She takes confident steps, even though she wears muddy foot wraps without boots and a worn, simple skirt. She squeezes the front of her scarf on her chest, shaping it into something like a short, hooded cloak. A warden, I heard. She answers your nod by pursing her lips. I need you to ride somewhere for me. Tell me. Far away from here, at the eastern road, there's an old bridge made of a single rock. She doesn't look away for even a single heartbeat. Her gaunt face is pale and makes her large grey eyes look as if someone took their colour away. Beneath it there's a rock. Beneath the rock, a purse with my savings. Bring it to me. Before you mention your reward, she starts to speak faster, giving the men at the gate a nervous glance. Half of what you'll find is yours. Bring me the rest. Are you in trouble? She hesitates a bit too long. Of course not. But a few dragons cannot bite, can they? Seeing the curious looks of the guard, she shakes her head and leaves you to yourself as she passes by a flesh-bearing undead. Ooh, good Helvius. He hardly spares you a glance. I've helped to cure the plague in Old Pagos. Maybe with time, things will return to normal. You did? He frowns. And how, I ask? Not even Arentius could help them. You start your long tale, but the mayor stops paying attention after just a few minutes, pressing the cold, blunt side of his axe to his cheek. So some dangerous pagan spells, huh? Knowing the curses of the druids, the village may not last till spring, or maybe Tarsus is going to collect the debt now. When he mentions pagans, you can't stop yourself from peeking at the loud undead shells. I seek a few missing hunters from creeks. Are they here? His voice remains the same, but he squeezes the long haft of his axe. Dahlia, right, was here but many days ago with questions on howlers and cats. Some dumb bet, she told me, was heading back north. Eudocia, the enchantress, would like this rod in your village somewhere high. Would that be a problem? She what? Let me see. He swings the hollow piece of bronze like a sword made from a branch and then raises it above his head, staring at it with little patience. A lightning catcher or a toy? Well, he gives it back. Come one day before noon. You'll go out with the foragers as a guard. Work with them for half a day and we'll put it in a tree. Or on a roof, mayhap. Very well, I'll do the work. I guess I'm doing it now. After half an hour or so, the expedition is ready. 6 souls, none of them older than 40 and with no undead to assist them. Too dumb, the oldest woman explains, and we've no overseer with us. Their accents are heavy, but they rarely address you. For most of the time, they exchange single-word commands, gesturing for you to quiet down whenever you step on a branch. You spend half a day following the bog paths, but also going deeper into the wilderness. As a group, you manage to scare away the smaller beasts, and your guide claims to lead you around the hunting territories of the larger predators. From time to time, you keep to what looks like the most inconvenient trails in sight, yet no one objects. You cross the muds, shallow waters and ancient dark game trails, tracking any movement among leaves and grasses. Hungry and annoyed by the insects, you go back to white marshes, carrying baskets and sacks full of mushrooms, berries, herbs and great leaves, but also a few birds and furry critters. As we head to the village, I follow the guide patiently. Helvius waits for you at the gate, nodding with approval. 2 steps away from him, you see a short corpse, bare-boned above its waist, but still wearing pants and carrying scraps of meat on its feet. Not giving you a moment for a breath, the mayor tells you to fetch him a rod. After you do so, he throws it at the undead, bouncing the rod off his head with a thud, and starts to laugh. "Go on now," he commands it. "Put it on the tree there and tie it with rope." His worker bows down to pick up the tools and obediently walks away. Oh, he's doing it, isn't he? Let's go and wash my face at the water at the well. It gives you little relief. You'd need bucketfuls of water to wash the bogs off you. The man leaves you behind, amused with the way the undead tries to approach the new challenge. A few times you hear the dead shell falling from a branch and the man's sonorous laughter. I go to Helvius. Got some wares to sell? No. I think that's probably all we do here. We've got 4 hours before dusk, so where can we get? Maybe we go back to Foggy's and we'll give her the message from the innkeep in the south. And then we'll probably rest here for the night. The screeching birds are sitting on the logs of the palisade. Some of them observe you, but the group doesn't cease its squabbling. The tavern staff is sitting on the stairs, enjoying the light in silence as they share a roasted fish. Let's go in the tavern. The room has been recently aired out. Foggy is resting on a chair, observing you with a single open eye. She welcomes you with a smile. I've got some stuff to sell. Maybe later. I want to keep that for now. I had a talk with Laysom. She encourages you with a smile. Hen, what did he say, love? I cover up for him. 3 dragons. After your tale, she scratches her knee. So you're saying Asterion is to blame? Fine. Though I'd rather hear about it from the hunters themselves without waiting for them to wake up. Thanks. She pats your shoulder. That's a big help. She hands you the cold pieces of bone. Here are your dragons. Go buy something, maybe? Oh, we've already got the 3 meals. We've got 3 left, haven't we? So maybe we'll sleep here. I'll have one of those in the morning. Don't need to heal, but we'd lose health if we slept in the main hall. So I think all in all, we'll probably we'll rent for 1 dragon. I remember we felt wealthy. Seems a long time ago now. The rains once again hit the ground, interrupting your sleep. Another day of muddy roads. Oh dear. It takes a long time to get anywhere when the roads are muddy. Listening to the grunts of the annoyed roach makes you feel uneasy, but at least the furs covering the floor are helping you relax. You don't even notice when it's already morning. And while the smell coming from the lower floor is not inviting, at least it's not you who has to take care of it. Foggy smiles at you. Okay, we're going to eat. We've already paid for the meals here, so that's fine. She stretches out her arm and grabs a bowl. Give me a moment. You sit down at the clean table. After a moment, the keeper brings you some monster meat you can't identify. A couple of apples and a cup of birch sap. Ugh. Once you're done, Foggy packs the leftovers for you as a snack, and for the rest of the day and mentions that you've already paid for another 2 meals. That's fine. Okay, time to go. So, I think we're going to leave it there for now. We'll have a quick think about what we want to achieve tomorrow, or today really. It's morning now, isn't it? I guess the big thing is I would like to sort of join up these 2 trails, but I'm also aware that we probably want to lay a few more of these bronze rods down before we sort of do anything again with going to Eudocia. So we probably want to go to Gale Rocks, we probably want to go to Creeks. It didn't seem to be an option to put one in this tavern, but I may have missed that. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, so we'll leave it there. So thanks very much for watching this. I hope you're still enjoying it. I'm still enjoying playing it. If you did enjoy it, then please do hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel as well if you've not already. So that'd be amazing. And in the meantime, I hope to see you again for more Roadwarden. Bye for now.